Today I am on the island of Buyukada, which is the largest in a chain known as the Prince's Islands, or Islands of the Princes. This is still a part of the city of Istanbul, but as you can tell, it is far different than a majority of the city. I am here when it's getting deep into the fall, and from what I gather, this place is much more popular in the summer. Still, there is plenty to see. So for the next few minutes, let me introduce you to the island, starting right here in its main town of Adalar. For clarification, the municipality name is Adalar, but that refers to all of the Prince's Islands. Büyükada actually means big island. It is roughly 2.5 miles long and just under a mile wide. It has a permanent population of under 10,000 people. Virtually all of the tourism infrastructure and most of its residents are situated here on the northern end. This part of the island is quaint. It is full of shops, lodging, and places to eat and drink. The atmosphere is most pleasant as very few vehicles are allowed here. To get around, there are electric buses and electric carts. Gas-powered vehicles are prohibited. Just a short walk from the port, there's a transportation hub. All of the buses begin and end their routes at this spot. There is also an area where the smaller electric vehicles pick up and drop off passengers. The methods of moving about the island have changed dramatically in recent years. Until recently, horse-drawn carriages or carts were part of the transportation mix here. That century-old tradition, however, ended in February of 2020. Horse-powered travel went away when there were concerns for the animals' well-being and an outbreak of disease killed dozens of the horses. One of the most popular ways for visitors to explore is by bicycle. Rental shops are plentiful. The island is certainly small enough to make cycling a viable alternative. The pedaling is easy around the port and in the business district, but hills in the interior can be challenging. I chose simply to walk everywhere that I went during my stay. The majority of the town is just a short walk from the ferry terminal. This is where almost everyone will arrive on the island. It will take around an hour and a half for the ride from the main part of the city to this outpost. Ferries run numerous times each day from locations on both the European and Asian sides of Istanbul. The ride to and from includes stops at the 3 other main islands in the group. For me, the early morning trip through the Bosphorus Strait and into the Marmara Sea was a highlight. The center of activity on Buyukada is here. This is known as the Clock Square. At the center is this cone-shaped tower, which dates to 1923. It is one of the symbols of the island and the spot where many people decide to meet. Most want to also grab a photo or two at this location. One of the features that sets this island apart are the houses. There are many incredible mansions, many of them made of wood. A lot of the structures are from the 19th century. Some have been turned into hotels or inns, and others have been put to use in additional ways. There are, of course, a number of the mansions which remain single-family homes. The wooden mansions can be found scattered all over the island. One of the largest concentrations, though, is on Çankaya Street. That is parallel to the shore and perched atop the hill. This is one of the most spectacular streets I've seen anywhere. There is one stunning mansion after another, and that continues for the better part of a kilometer. If you find yourself on the island, make sure you walk through here. It would be no problem wandering up and down this street for an hour or two. You can forget the time by marveling at the architecture and noticing intricate features that make each house unique. Among those houses, there are many with interesting stories. This is one of those. It's known as the Leon Trotsky House. A driving force behind the Russian Revolution in 1917, Trotsky spent almost 5 years living here in exile later in life. He felt safe here, far from those who would want to do him harm in his own country. At times, this house has been open to the public, but for now, it is closed. When I visited late in the fall, I didn't see any of the swimming areas on the island that were open. This is Blue Beach. There's not much sand or even rocks here, but it is a popular place, I'm told, during summer months. Other beaches are situated in various locations around Buyukada. On the northern side of the island, leading away from the port, there is this nice promenade. It stretches for several hundred meters. I walked it toward the east. The first part, closest to the town, the path has shops and restaurants to its side. There is more of a non-commercial feel the farther you go. A destination along the promenade is this mermaid sculpture. The mermaid is positioned so that it looks out onto the Marmara Sea in the direction of the main part of Istanbul. It was created in 2014 by a female Turkish artist who gifted the piece to the people of the island. The lower half of the mermaid is a mosaic consisting of tiny tile pieces. A short distance farther along the seaside walk is a small marina. There is room here for several dozen boats. When I passed by, the vessels were of various sizes, although there were no massive yachts. Some of the more interesting sites on Buyukada are in the interior. Just look at the size of this structure. This was built in the latter stages of the 19th century, designed to be a hotel with a casino. For a variety of reasons, it never was used for that purpose. Instead, it spent its useful years as an orphanage, over time serving as home to more than 5,000 children. Even though it closed in 1964, it is known as the Greek orphanage to this day. I've heard it said that at 20,000 square meters, this is the largest wooden building in Europe and the second largest in the world. It is not in good shape and can only be seen from outside a fence. There are reports that the place will be restored in the coming years. This is Yorgi, or in English, that would be the Church of St. George. It sits at the top of the highest hill on the island. Construction of this facility took place in 1751, although there has been a religious presence at this site since the 10th century. I did not get the chance to go inside, but from the images that I have seen, that would be a treat. People come to the church every day to pray and worship, but it is also the location of a once-a-year pilgrimage. April 23rd is the feast of St. George Day. It's at that time that worshipers ascend to the church in extremely large numbers. They walk from the bottom of the hill in silence, and many make the trip without shoes. Near the top, tree branches are full of ribbons left by the pilgrims. The pieces of cloth are left in hopes of good luck or as a way to make wishes come true. This is the road to the top. The top is at just over 200 meters, and the walk is somewhat challenging. I would not recommend this for everybody. The path goes straight up the hill. There's not a switchback in sight. It is manageable at this time of the year. I can't imagine doing this in the heat of the summer. From the bottom to the top will take upwards of a half hour. Not only is the church the reward for making the trek up the hill, but there are views over the island as well. This could be the best vantage point in all of Buyukada. It includes the island's scenery, as well as a good look at the surrounding Marmara Sea. In looking for panoramic vistas, I also found this spot a couple hundred meters from the church. There were more great views. They came from the land that surrounds what I believe is called the Atakule Tower, which was once used for spotting fires. It would have been even better to climb to the top of the tower, but no access was allowed. On the way to see the church and the orphanage, I passed the Isa Monastery. I couldn't find much information about this seemingly abandoned place. One source claims that a monastery here was mentioned in documents from the 12th century. Everything at the site was closed off to the public. There were signs, however, that someone was living in the structure. Much of Buyukada, particularly on the southern end, is not developed. I sought out a couple of areas that promised to be devoted to that wilderness. One was the Dilburnu Nature Park. It's a small area covering 17 acres. I did see a collection of picnic tables, but that space was locked away behind a fence. I didn't fare too well when trying to seek out nature here. Obviously, there's no access at this park, at least at this time of the day. Then I followed Google Maps to Buyukada National Park. I couldn't even find an entrance at that location. This is what much of the undeveloped land on the island looks like. To obtain a little more information about Buyukada and its history, there is the Adalar Museum. The exhibits are dedicated to the entire group of islands. This opened in 2010. Items that are featured both inside and out cover everything from nature to social to ethnographic elements. It is definitely worth a few moments to see what is important to the people in this small portion of the world. This is one of the main places on Buyukada for Muslims to worship. It is the Hamidiyye Mosque. This was built in the latter days of the Ottoman Empire, completed in the late 19th century. Its architecture displays a bit of Western influence. The primary business district on Buyukada had everything that I needed for a pleasant stay. Of course, that includes coffee, or more precisely, cappuccino. I dropped into this gorgeous little place called the Maple Coffee Shop and Roastery. The setting was perfect for enjoying my drink. In addition to good coffee and a pleasant setting, this cafe provided just a little more. As soon as I sat down, I gained 4 or 5 new friends. Seeing them comfortably lounging inside and on the furniture told me instantly that this was a place I wanted to be. I was in Turkiye for almost a month before I tried lokma for the first time. What a waste. I placed an order at this spot and was able to see the sweet, doughy bites come to life. I've had my eye on these essentially since I got off of the ferry. They are so unbelievably good. There's a little crunch on the outside, but once they're in your mouth, they just melt away. Lokma is essentially fried dough balls, sweetened by syrup or honey, and hit with a dusting of cinnamon. I thought I got an order that was too large, but they were gone in an instant. There are so many restaurants that it is nearly impossible to pick just one. There's a fear of choosing incorrectly, but with the help of Google reviews, I think I did okay. I ordered a shrimp stew and was able to hang out next to the chef while he created it. Sometimes for me, seeing things happen in the kitchen is as good as actually eating the food. When brought to the table, the shrimp concoction was still bubbling. I will have to wait a few moments before I dig into the shrimp stew. It is actually still boiling. In the meantime, I'll try some of the topping that they have with some bread that they brought me. It is really good. The bread was fresh and the yogurt-based topping was delicious. A few slices of that, and the temperature of the shrimp dish was finally manageable. The chef did a really good job with the shrimp. There's a tendency to overcook them. These are perfect though. I left completely satisfied with the Ada Saray restaurant and the experience that I had there. There is no shortage of ice cream shops in Buyukada, and they line the street heading away from the port. I grabbed a cone at a place called Motto. It offered many different flavors. The flavors that I chose are honey almond and pistachio. It's very creamy. The guy at the counter said it's made of goat milk. I get the sense that for many, a trip to the islands here is not complete without having some of this ice cream. On the one evening I spent in town, I sought out a place for a beer. I found a table right on the main square outside at Madame Sophia Cafe and Bar. Brewed here in Turkey, Efes is essentially synonymous with beer throughout the country. It holds about an 80% market share. Interesting fact, it is named for the ancient port of Ephesus. Efes offers several different versions of its beer. There's one at 7.5% that I think is pretty good. My place for the night in Buyukada was at the Sinar Konak Hotel. It is a charming little place that was exceptionally comfortable. A little balcony looked out onto the street. The common areas were quite attractive. Always on the lookout for street art, I found a bit in Buyukada. These monochromatic scenes were just around the corner from my hotel. You could do well taking a look at this artwork and then going to visit the places depicted in person. There was a little more vibrance in some pieces that I found in another place. These scenes were somewhere along the main streets of the town. A specific location eludes me, as I happened upon it while just roaming around with no destination in mind. Coming to the Prince's Islands was such a fantastic decision. There's a tremendous difference from what most of the city of Istanbul is like. There are 4 main islands here, so there's no need to stick just with Buyukada. Stay tuned for a lot more from Turkey, or as it is now officially called, Turkiye. There will be a bit more from Istanbul, but then I will change locations and head to the southern part of the country and Antalya. You can follow it all right here on Old, Alone, and Far From Home.